Wow, hello everybody. Welcome to our get-together. Let's give you guys a round of applause. Thank you for coming. Thank you very much. My name's Donna Brown. I have lived in Rancho Mirage for a number of years, so it's very nice to see all of you here. My husband previously was on the emergency preparedness group, so I'm sure he'd be appreciative that you're all here. On your seats, you have some little emergency preparedness swag, those red bags, and you also have these forms like this. This movie is playing at 9 and 11, so it's not a 4-hour movie. But you could take these if you want to grab any extra ones. They're on that table right by the exit, and they have asked me maybe you could stick one in a neighbor's mailbox if you're allowed to do that, or just give them to somebody. So anyway, thank you very much. Welcome to the first ever Readiness Seminar. This is the first 72 hours, and it's presented by the Rancho Mirage Emergency Preparedness Committee. We would like to thank Brandini Toffee. We'll give them a hand. Yeah, it's a very nice story and some local kids, and now they have this great company, and they do a lot of philanthropic things in the desert here. Thank you to the volunteers who helped set up. Yes, let's give you guys a hand too. Thank you. If you have a cell phone, if you could please put it on silent now, because you know, one of you, it's going to go off, right? And everybody's going to look at you like, so just try to put them on silent if you can. Just give us a little bit of time here. If you need to use the restroom, you go out those main doors, straight down through the back. In the event of emergency, since we're having an emergency preparedness, see all the exit doors, there you go. Or you can go this way too, so we have many choices of ways to exit if we have an emergency. So the event format is this. There's an individual and household preparedness. That is the most effective method for building a disaster resilient community. I'm reading, sorry. A few hours of planning and preparation now multiplied by every household in a community will greatly reduce the workload of our first responders, many of which are here now. There's a bunch of them. Those are all the handsome fire people over there. Oh, and there's another one, too. So you make it easy for them to help you by helping yourself first. Our panel is industry professionals who will give you some insight into their organization and their potential response within the first 72 hours of a major earthquake. So I'll be introducing them in a little bit, but first we're going to watch a little movie. This is a 2-minute movie, so not too long. It's a 2-minute computer simulation of a magnitude 7.8 earthquake originating in the Salton Sea. Yeah, it's going to be a fun ride. We don't have any shaking chairs or anything, so you're going to be good. No bonding or Dramamine needed. The waves that you're going to see are a simulation, and they're extremely exaggerated. I think they're exaggerated by like 1,000 times, so it's not going to be quite like this, but it'll give you a visual idea of what's going to happen. So I think we're ready, yes? Here it comes. And you can see on the left, it's coming from the Palm Springs area up. Yeah. See how it's right down the I-10? So those waves are extremely exaggerated. I think you can see somewhere on here it says 1,000 times more exaggerated. So we're not going to be like, swimming the quake really, but it's not going to be pleasant. That's for sure. That's a 7.8 simulation of an earthquake starting in the Salton Sea. We're just about settled here. Oh, man. When this movie's over. Okay, so the movie's just winding up here. We have a small presentation here from each of our panelists. They're going to talk for around 10 minutes or so each, and they're going to be covering what their agency will be doing in the first 72 hours, and what you can do to get ready now, or how you can respond after the earthquake hits. So, and then we're going to conclude with an opportunity for questions and answers, but we appreciate it if you keep all those for the end, because we're more likely to answer your questions. And then when you yell out your questions, I'll repeat your questions so everybody can hear it, okay? So I'll just introduce the panel here. Hope I get everybody's name right. Starting here on my left, Riverside County Sheriff's Department, Sherry Colgan Stone. From CAL FIRE, Matthew Kotz. From Southern California Edison, we all love Edison, it's Michaela Mendoza. Coachella Valley Water District, Greg Papazian. Eisenhower Health is Shauna Elliman. Riverside County Emergency Management Department, Joshua Holkesvig. And Coachella Valley Disaster Presentation Network, Carla Sullivan-Dilley. All righty, so we'll start off with the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, Sherry Colgan Stone. Oh, okay.
Good evening. I hope everybody's doing great. I am so excited to see how many people showed up to learn about death and disaster, right? And I'm trying to figure out if they let the former middle school teacher go first for a reason. But because I am a former middle school teacher, I am going to tell you, if we do have to evacuate tonight, then you need to evacuate and then tweet about it, okay? Don't do it the opposite way. But watching that video is always extremely enlightening for me, because I know that if we have a 7.6 to an 8.0 earthquake, everything that is in your houses and in your places of business that are not secured to the wall or to the floor somehow, you and everything in your house or place of business will be moving about 6 feet. And so it is absolutely critical in those first couple of minutes that if you are not in a safe location, that, not minutes, seconds, when you feel that ground shaking, you get to someplace secure, because once the severe shaking starts, you will not have an opportunity to get there. You will become a human pinball machine. For those of you who don't know what a pinball machine is, it's this little game that and there's a ball and it goes like this, and that's what basically will happen to you. So make sure you take those first couple of seconds to get to someplace safe. And I believe I have yes, I do. There we go. So I am the Emergency Services Coordinator with the Riverside County Sheriff's Office, and I'm going to introduce two of our team members. We have Corporal Joe Dunlap with us this evening, and also our Sergeant. Yep, go ahead, give him a. And our Sergeant David Marshall as well back there. So any questions? Yes. He's my boss. Give him a round of applause. Any questions that I can't answer for you tonight? We have two of our sworn members here as well. So I want to tell you a little bit about what we're going to be doing in the first 72 hours. And that's most critical because many people think that we will, our deputies will be able to come and save you, and that's not quite accurate. So we want to make sure that you're prepared so that we can help the most number of people in this incident. So when we first start out, we're going to have to do some assessments to figure out where we need to spend our time, where it is that needs the greatest amount of help and how we can help them. So we'll be conducting assessments, and the deputies will be reporting into our Department Operations Center to give us the outcome of those assessments. We'll take care of life safety for the highest number of people possible. And so if you're alone and a resident, chances are you don't have 200 little elementary school students that need rescuing in your place of residence. So we're probably going to go to those places like elementary schools, hospitals, where we can do the most amount of good for the most amount of people. So it is critical that you have your small places of business and your homes really secured and know what you're going to be doing. We're also going to be providing logistical support and mobilization for some of those, the supply chain, right? We need to be getting supplies in. We're going to be making sure we get those supplies in, get any sort of mutual aid that we have coming in to a secure location, making sure that all of those, if the feds are coming in and bringing any sort of teams, that we can get them in and get them securely in place. And then we are going to also be helping to protect our critical infrastructure, right? You all want your gas on, you all want your water on, your electricity, and so we're going to need to protect those places of the critical infrastructure. So how are we going to do this? We're going to use emergency management and something that we call the National Incident Management System and the Standardized Emergency Management System. Is anybody here familiar with what we call NIMS and SIMS? Okay, we got a couple people. So we use this, and I know that my colleagues up here will also probably mention this as well, but the National Incident Management System was developed after 9/11, and the Standardized Emergency Management System was developed here in California. It's the system that we use in California after the East Bay Oakland fires in the early 1990s. And so we've been using the system a lot longer than most of the nation, but really what it helps us do is understand how we can work together in any sort of, with any sort of agency, with any sort of state, federal, local agencies. We all use these systems, and that includes what's called the Incident Command System. So we'll be using those systems to make sure that we can help the greatest number of people, and we will be working with our fire and EMD counterparts who you'll meet a little bit later. We do have a Department Operations Center, and you'll see a picture of that, and basically that's kind of our centralized emergency management location. That's where we're getting fed a lot of information. We have a bunch of screens up that kind of gives us what's going on, gives us that over operational picture of what's happening. And so that is a critical piece of our equipment and our supplies that we need. We'll be using mutual aid, right? If we have a major earthquake here in Southern California, we're going to need help from other places because we're not going to be able to sustain all of our services to you. So we might be engaging in mutual aid with other regions within California and maybe even from outside of California. And then we also have our search and rescue teams, and you'll see a picture of them in a couple of minutes, and they're all very specialized to different regions and the different types of terrain that they may encounter. So here's our CERT staffing, our Sheriff Emergency Response Team. Now, this is not all of the people who were responding to the emergency. This is the team who's going to use that incident command system that I talked about earlier to manage the emergency. So there's the response pieces, which our deputies, the boots on the ground, will be doing. And then this is the team that will be helping to manage the emergency from the Department Operations Center or from our mobile command posts. So I'll let you take a look at all of those people we have in support. And our current administration has really done wonders in building our team and building the equipment that we have to help other people. So we're very thankful for that. I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of our assets. So we have equipment, we have supplies. Besides having a cache of supplies at each one of our stations to make sure that our deputies are fed, they have some place to sleep, and we have water, all of that for them. We have caches at each of our stations and our facilities around the county. We have 3 mobile command posts, like you see the sheriff standing in front of right here. And those can be mobilized to go out and run a command in any place in the county. And we have sent them. You probably have seen them if you went to Coachella or some of the big festivals we have. We usually send them out. We have a mobile field force trailer. Our mobile field force is many times used in things like civil unrest, but it can also be used in larger scale earthquakes and any sort of disasters. And then we have forward command post. Each one of our sworn team on the Sheriff Emergency Response Team has what's called a forward command post, and it's a big truck. You can see a couple of them in the parking lot tonight. And these are able to kind of get to those places that our big mobile command posts can't go, but they have a lot of the same type of features. We can run incident command out of any of these command posts. And then we have our unmanned aerial vehicles, otherwise known as drones. These drones will definitely help us be able to conduct some of those assessments, fly over areas to see where the most damage is done, where we may not be able to use the highways, et cetera. But we also use them day to day in our operations in law enforcement. We have things like the Polaris utility terrain vehicle, where we can take it off-road if we needed to. And there is a picture of our Department Operations Center right there. And that's really where the crux of the centralized emergency management takes place for us, much like the county EMD has their emergency operations center that I'm sure they'll talk about. Here's our search and rescue teams, and you can see that we have a diverse group of teams that can work throughout the county in any sort of terrain, and they are volunteers, so we thank them very much for what they do for our county. They search for many hikers out in the desert area, out in the mountainous areas, and so we are very thankful for them, and of course everybody loves the dogs, right? So mutual aid is something that we use on a day-to-day basis in law enforcement. If we're, for example, when the regional terrorist attack happened in San Bernardino, they used mutual aid. We sent some of our team over to San Bernardino to help them. And what it does is it provides an immediate response from other regions and other counties, and city to city, county to county, region to region. And we can bring in law enforcement who are trained in the same things that our deputies are trained in to help us run the emergency, the command centers, all of that. So we engage in those quite often. Sometimes our helicopters will be up doing something, doing training, and we'll get a call from a city, and they need help finding a suspect. And so, since our bird is already in the air, then we can send it over and help them try to find that suspect. So we do it on a regular basis. But during an emergency, this will absolutely be critical for our earthquakes. Because we won't be able to do everything. Many of our families will be affected. We may have deputies whose houses have been destroyed, families have been injured, and so we want to make sure that we can call on mutual aid from other areas to help us. So what is your role, right? We want you to be prepared. Because number one, it's going to help with the rapid response, right? If you're better prepared at your home, you're going to be able to respond more rapidly if we needed you to evacuate. And here is my plea. If a sheriff deputy comes up to your door and says, "We need you to evacuate," please evacuate. Please, because we're not going to be able to come back in and save you if a fire is rolling up on your property or some hazardous material spill has happened. We're not going to be able to come back and save you if you don't evacuate. So if you're ready for an evacuation, if you have all of your documents in order and your grab-and-go bags, I can live out of my car for 7 days. I know our deputies can live out of their truck for 7 days. If you can live out of your car for 3 days, that would be great. Having that kit and being ready to go is going to help us. We want you to be self-reliant, right? We don't want you to absolutely need our help, because if you need our help, that's taking away from somebody else who may have a greater need. And so if you're more prepared, you're going to be self-reliant. You're going to be resilient. You'll be able to deal with the emergency better if you are prepared. And just for your psychological piece and your physical piece of preparedness, that is absolutely important. You'll be able to assist others. And I understand, how many of you have your community emergency response teams already set up? Because I understand that you are very well prepared in this community. And so I thank you for being able to do that, because you'll be able to assist others when we may not be able to get to you for a while. And then, of course, it reduces panic, on your end, on your family's end. You probably have seen watching TV after a major disaster, and parents or grandparents are talking, and they just had their house burned down or something, and the calm parents, the calm grandparents bring calm to those kids that they're talking in front of. Oh yeah, you know what? We were prepared. We had a plan. We got all of the people out of the house, and somebody grabbed the dog, and somebody grabbed our important papers, and so everybody is okay. We're going to be okay. Compare that to somebody who is panicking. I don't know what we're going to do. We lost everything, and so we want you to be able to help yourselves and your families during that time, and that will help reduce the panic. So you've heard this, right? Make a plan, get a kit, be informed. The one thing I know that many of my colleagues up here are going to be talking about preparedness. From the sheriff's standpoint, you get that kit. Not only do you get that kit, but you have a plan to defend that kit, right? I have people come up to me, and when they hear I can live out of my car for 7 days, they're like, oh, great, we're gonna go see Sherry when there's a disaster. And I'm like, that's great, that's wonderful, because you know what, I forgot to plan, to pay my mortgage this month, so I know you plan to pay your mortgage, so I'll come and take your mortgage payment. And they look at you like, no, you can't do that. And it's like, you're right, you can't do that. I said, I've spent time preparing my supplies. I also have a plan to defend my supplies. So unless you have a better plan than me, we're in trouble. So, make a kit. Absolutely get your kit. Have your family have a plan, and make sure you know how to defend that, okay? And I won't go into how you do that, but I have some great ideas after the talk. But stay informed. Know when your community is going to be evacuating. We have some great tools coming up in the county that can help you with some of the evacuation procedures, so stay informed. And with that, I will end my presentation and hand it back over. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. So if you're going to steal someone's kit, don't take it from a sheriff. Okay, next we're going to introduce Matthew Kotz from CAL FIRE.
Good evening. Matthew Coates, CAL FIRE, Riverside County Fire Department, Battalion Chief for the city of Rancho Mirage. This appears to be the most popular place to be in Rancho Mirage tonight, and thank you for coming. I was expecting 20 people, and we got probably 200, so I'm glad you guys all can make it. So in my presentation, I'm going to talk about what CAL FIRE's roles and responsibilities are for earthquake before and after. And also I want to talk about community preparedness and sustainability for our citizens here in Rancho Mirage. So I took this photo snapshot of the earthquake risk within the geographical United States. And you can tell Riverside County has the highest risk. We're in the hot zone, if you will. So it's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. And that's part of the roles and responsibilities for your local fire department, your cooperators here, to make sure that we provide the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people. So as we progress forward through my presentation, so what are some of the response actions that not only you can take, but the fire department can take as what we're going to do? So the initial action before an earthquake, we're going to make sure that we're capable. We're not going to have any hazards, because if we are not going to be available for response to you, we're not going to be any good. You pay good money for tax dollars for emergency personnel to respond to emergencies, and so we want to make sure that we are there for you, for the citizens. So during the impact phase, which would be following the shaking of after the earthquake, what we want to do is we want to take accountability of our fire personnel on our fire stations. We want to do a quick survey of our fire station. After an earthquake, you may drive by a fire station, you see the fire engine sitting out front. It's to make sure that we have to watch out for any aftershocks of an earthquake. Make sure that our fire engines are not going to be crumbled on by the fire station. We're going to be able to provide a good response to the community. And so the city of Rancho Mirage put a good investment into their local fire stations, more specifically here, the one on Highway 111, which they added some earthquake retrofits, so it could withstand a sizable earthquake and still be standing for a response later. So after a for post-impact phase after the earthquake occurred, we're going to go out and do a windshield survey of the community, and we'll get into that here shortly. So what the goals for the fire department, we want to protect the life, protect the community, protect the property. We want to make sure that all those are aligned with the fire department. Like I said, you'll hear the same speech here from our cooperators, the greatest good for the greatest amount of people. And then finally, we want to get our community back to normalcy as quickly as possible. So within the fire department objectives, we want to save the lives and well-being of station personnel, which we discussed already. Safeguard the apparatus by bringing the fire apparatus outside of the fire station so it's available for response. Do a quick windshield survey. Go around and check the high target hazard areas, which would be City Hall, the fire stations, hospitals, police stations, mobile homes, which don't have a secure foundation, so we want to check on those too, schools and whatnot. And then also conduct a critical target hazard triage to determine the most appropriate application for our resources. We want to focus on the greatest amount of good, so providing that good to as many people as we can. We don't want to get narrowed into one disaster only, although you guys are probably very important to us, but we want to make sure that we're available for everybody. And then also we're going to initiate any life-saving resources and responses as necessary. So what can you do to be prepared for yourself as far as a community? Have an earthquake kit with food and water up to 72 hours. Have your medications available for you. Fire extinguishers and gas shutoffs. I keep a gas shutoff at my gas meter so I know where it is and I don't have to go rooting around and looking for it. Provide shelter. Make sure that you will have shelter, whether it's a tent in your garage or something to that effect, maybe even your vehicle. Be able to live out of your vehicle for at least 72 hours. Having a good tank of gas, a full tank of gas, try to do that as much as you can. Ingress and egress routes out of your community. Try to find at least 2 ingress and egress routes out of your community. And also what we have discussed here previously is become a CERT member. The City of Rancho Mirage provides a good resource for community response. So we have that program here within the city, and it's on the city's website. And CAL FIRE, Riverside County Fire Personnel, they teach that class, and I believe some of the people that are in the audience have attended that class. And it's a well-attended class, and it's very valuable to the citizens. It makes a stronger community. And then some of the other things is, one thing is get earthquake insurance. It's really not that expensive, $90 a month for my house, and I live here locally. And one thing to note too for an earthquake, it just doesn't affect one block or one community. It affects the whole valley. So the fire department and all first responders will be greatly impacted. So we'll be at maximum workload for the emergency. So when we talk about sustainability, is what we've talked about is be prepared up to 72 hours. Be prepared not to have communication services. The fire department, like I said, will be at maximum workload. And that's all I have. We'll cover questions later.
Well, thank you very much. And just remember the Rancho Mirage Emergency Preparedness Committee, they have lots and lots of information. My husband was on the committee, though. That's how I know. But there's lots and lots of information that they can give you to help you. So next we have Michaela Mendoza from Southern California Edison.
Hi, everybody. My name is Michaela. I'm a planner with Southern California Edison's Business Resiliency Team. So basically what that means is I'm still a book nerd. We develop earthquake response plans, all hazards emergency operations plans, and everything else you can think of from inundation to cyber response. I want to introduce 2 of my colleagues here with us tonight, Melissa with our Business Resiliency Operations team and Shane with our local public affairs team. Thank you. As an electric utility, Southern California Edison provides a service that FEMA has identified as a critical lifeline, essential to the community's health and safety and to providing critical government services and business functions. So power restoration will be a priority for the state and is identified in the state's catastrophic earthquake plan for restoration. Safety is the number one priority when Edison is responding. We want to provide for the safety of our customers and for our employees. We have safety at the forefront of all operational response activities, and it is a core company value. So what that means is if there's a down power line out in the city, one of our first priorities is going to be to get that taken care of. That way it isn't in harm's way for you. Our incident management team is going to be one of the first things that we're going to stand up. So our incident management team is on call 365 days a year, and they are trained to respond and address adverse impacts that may affect the company. They are activated and they are organized according to the incident command system. And what that does is it allows Edison to respond in a unity of effort. We have several subject matter experts within the company, and they all have, something to add value, but we want to make sure that we're all cylinders are rolling at the same time and that we can work together more effectively. Initially, we have to figure out how bad is bad, right? How bad is the big one? And we will begin collecting situational awareness information through our 24/7 watch office. They will be able to tell us how bad potentially the impacts to our critical infrastructure might be. And we've also partnered with the U.S. Geological Survey, USGS, to deploy seismic sensors throughout our service territory. So what that means is actually serves two purposes. One is for you all, the MyShake earthquake early warning system. It actually provides data to you for those extra couple seconds. And to us, it also serves as a tool because it will measure the intensity of shaking and tell us how bad the damage might be to that critical infrastructure, to the equipment in that area. What we would do with that then is use that information to prioritize how we're deploying our damage assessment teams and begin to kind of help us strategize where we need to put the most amount of effort first. The other situational awareness information that we will need to be collecting has nothing to do with the damage to our equipment, to our critical infrastructure, but the external damage to the community. So what that might look like is, how does the 10 freeway look? Is Highway 111 passable? What about the local roads here? And the reason for that is because we need to deploy our teams, and if they can't access our equipment, we're gonna need to coordinate with our local public partners to gain access as quickly as possible. The other reason we may need access for roadways very quickly is, I don't know if you've seen our equipment, but it could be the size of a house, right? A transformer requires a lot of manpower to move that. So we're gonna need as much support as we can to get that equipment there if it needs replacement. As we communicate with our local public partners, we're gonna be coordinating with the city, the county, the state, and our other utilities. We do anticipate that we may need mutual aid assistance, so they will be supporting us. We will rely on our agency representatives to coordinate local city and county priorities so that we can integrate that into our incident management team's response. And then finally, with you all, we will be communicating through SCE.com for situational awareness information, and we will be sending messages to those who have opted into emergency alerts. So this is a reminder that if you haven't already, visit our website so you can opt in and receive the most up-to-date, time-sensitive information following a response. So the response side of this is largely consequence management, right? We know that this is coming, but Edison has a robust business resiliency program that is focused on planning, training, and exercises to increase our response capabilities. Our incident management team follows the Federal Emergency Management Agency training standards, and what that looks like is they must go through all of these trainings before we actually roster them and qualify them to be able to respond on behalf of the company. We train them to ensure that they know what their roles and responsibilities are outside of their day-to-day job and leverage that existing subject matter expertise. And we also train them to our emergency response plans. Annually, we exercise these response plans and test our incident management team staff. And here, actually, I want to point out, in 2022, we did the exact scenario that we're talking about. We did the 7.8 earthquake on the San Andreas Fault, and we tested our capabilities. In the photo on the left, you will see our incident management team is conducting a briefing inside our emergency operations center. We are using all of the situational awareness information, tools, and technologies to inform our objectives and help us make informed decisions. I want to point out that it's a very small, you may not be able to see it, but they're wearing different colored vests, and each one of those vests signifies a different role and responsibility, and it helps us stay organized because it can become chaos very quickly for a company as large as Edison, but we want to make sure we're working together. And then on the right, you'll actually see our CEO is participating in our exercise as well, and I think that this is great for the company because it really sets the tone that this is a priority to Edison. We all live in the communities that are going to be impacted by the earthquake, and we want to ensure that we're ready. Looking ahead to 2024, SCE is conducting another earthquake exercise. It seems to be about every 2-year cycle, and we will be doing another earthquake scenario, not in the Coachella Valley. And the reason for that is we want to test other areas of SCE service territory so we can continue to build those capabilities. We have 50,000 square miles, in case you didn't know, so we want to make sure that we're strategically looking. Another element of our business resiliency program is our assessments and mitigations team. They work directly with our engineers to conduct studies and figure out how we can reduce the impact to other areas through mitigations and through seismic retrofits. So specifically in the Coachella Valley, photoed here is actually our team out on a site visit conducting work in the Palm Springs area. And they're doing substation switchyard work, and they're anchoring plates to or substation transformers to their plates in the foundation. And then we have done several seismic retrofits for our employee-occupied facilities, as well as other critical facilities such as the grid control center, our switching centers, and then our emergency operations center, which supports our incident management team's response. A story here that we want to share with you is Edison has conducted years and years of research to strategize where we should best invest in mitigations and where we're going to anticipate the most amount of impact, which has led to the work here that's been completed in Coachella Valley. The Coachella Valley is often referred to as the grid's backbone, and that is because a large portion of our bulk system is housed here in this area, and it services roughly 15 million people. So in the top photo here, again, this is in the Palm Springs area. Our engineer is actually explaining to the team the upgrades that have been conducted. So again, I mentioned our transformers can be the size of like a house or a small apartment building. He's explaining how they've anchored that transformer down to the site pad and bolted that down so it can withstand stronger intensity of shaking. Another thing that we've done is replaced older equipment with newer seismically tested equipment to enhance the system's reliability. And I know I mentioned that this research, it's extensive, right? But our hazards and assessments team is invested to continuously developing new research to see how we can better improve, because as technology progresses, there will always be room to increase our resiliency. I want to leave with what you can do, and I don't want you to just walk away and share this, share this with your friends, share this with your family, because you might be at work and your kids might be at school when the big one happens. Somebody might be at the grocery store, you might be separated, so you may know how to go to your fuse or breaker boxes and turn off the power, but does your 14-year-old teenager or, everybody else that you live with know how to do that? So I want to take you home with these tips to share with them. Make sure you have a working flashlight and extra batteries. Learn how to use your home's fuse and breaker boxes. Always assumed down power lines are energized and dangerous. And if you see a down power line, stay away and call 911. If you rely on medical equipment, devices, or medication, have a backup plan in case the power is out for an extended period. Now, SCE does have a medical baseline program and a critical care battery program that is intended to assist our customers with medical needs during an emergency. So if you're interested in signing up, visit SCE.com for information on how to opt in. And what I'll leave you with is it's a lot easier to take the preparedness steps today to make sure that you're ready and avoid having to say the I should have, I wish I could have, but I didn't, right? So SCE as a company, we're committed to increasing the grid's reliability and providing safe and reliable power to our customers. Thank you.
Well, that was great. I didn't realize that Edison did all that for us. That's wonderful. And did you see on the post that it said there was a 75% chance of that big quake happening in the next 30 years? Thanks. Okay, our next speaker is going to be Coachella Valley Water District, Greg Papazian. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Greg Papazian. I'm with the Coachella Valley Water District. I'm the Emergency Response Administrator for the district. I manage our emergency planning and safety programs. Thank you to the City of Rancho Mirage and the Rancho Mirage Emergency Preparedness Commission for hosting the event. Just want to give you a quick background, a little bit about the Coachella Valley Water District. We were founded in 1918. We're a special district. We have about 550 employees. We have a publicly elected board of directors, and we have 1,000 square mile service territory here in the Coachella Valley. So that means we run from Whitewater, where the windmills are, all the way down to the Salton Sea. So we have quite a large area that we provide service. So we obviously do domestic drinking water. We also do non-potable water to our local golf courses. We have multiple wastewater treatment plants in the valley. We provide irrigation water to our farmers. We do groundwater replenishment, so as we're pulling water out of the aquifer at our well sites, we're putting water back in. We also do stormwater protection, and we operate and maintain the 123-mile-long Coachella Canal. So how do we as an agency prepare for major disasters? We have an emergency response plan. We conduct emergency exercises. We have an emergency operations center. We also do train our staff in the incident command and in the National Incident Management System, so we're able to effectively communicate with all of our partners here. We also harden our infrastructure to ensure reliability. So we have a 24/7 control room that's staffed 24/7, and that control room monitors our SCADA system in the entire water system. So we also have on-site and mobile generators that we can bring out to our sites if we lose power. We also recently updated our local hazard mitigation plan. So we're always looking at areas where we can make targeted investments to mitigate our infrastructure from future hazards. And many of you may not know this, but many of our reservoirs, those large steel tanks you guys see around the valley on the hills, they have earthquake shutoff valves. So if we have main lines that break in the valley here, those valves will actuate when we have an earthquake and prevent us from losing all that water in those reservoirs. So we also coordinate with the county, the state, and our local partners all the time. And so one of the questions was, what will your agency be doing in the first 72 hours after a major earthquake? So for us, we're going to recall all of our staff to the extent possible. We're going to activate and staff our EOC. We're going to deploy our staff into the field to begin the damage assessment process. And one of our initial primary objectives will be to ensure that we keep the domestic system pressurized. Why do you guys think we want to keep our system pressurized? Fire suppression, right? We want our firefighters to be able to connect to our hydrants, so they have adequate flow to put out fires. We're also going to be dedicating our resources to our critical facilities, like our hospitals, dialysis clinics, those critical facilities that we need to restore service as quickly as possible. We're going to alert the county that we've activated our EOC. If we're not able to communicate with the county, we do have satellite phones, so we can call the State Warning Center in Sacramento and give them an update of what our status will be. So kind of once we're able to grasp the magnitude of damages, we may have to issue boil water or do not drink notices. And we would use all available means to communicate with our customers to alert the public and also work closely with our state regulators. So if you're a CVWD customer and you've established an account with us and you've shared your cell phone, we can actually text you on that cell phone. We're going to use social media, traditional media. We may even have to use door hangers in some communities to let them know about the boil water or do not drink notices. We also could deploy some of our potable water tenders to select communities. So if we have some communities that are out of water, we can deploy those water tenders and provide some relief to those communities. We also may have to place requests, right, for additional personnel and supplies. We can't just go to Home Depot and buy our meters and valves, right? A lot of this stuff it's big infrastructure. So we also, as was mentioned here, we're part of a mutual aid network called Cal Warn. So if we need, 200, 300 feet of ductile iron pipe, we can actually put that request in, and it would go throughout the entire state of California. So if a local water agency here in Southern California can't help us, maybe one in the Bay Area can or up further. So we're part of that. We'd also send a liaison, if requested, to the county EOC to ensure that we're integrating into the broader unified command structure. And, we respond to a lot of smaller emergencies all the time, right? We've had 2 recent presidentially declared disasters here in the Coachella Valley, right? We've had the February 2019 event, and then we also just had Tropical Storm Hillary. So, we as a district also experienced a damage from that event. So, kind of in closing, like what can you guys do to prepare, before the event, right? All of the response actions that we talked about here tonight are going to take time, right? And we're somewhat isolated here in the Coachella Valley, right? If we lose the 10 freeway, it's going to take a long time for the state or federal government to bring resources here to our valley. So, your quality of life after disaster is wholly dependent upon your level of preparedness before the disaster strikes. So that's why we're stressing this message, because we know it's going to take some time to get those resources to come here to the valley. So, so ensure you have an adequate amount of water at home stored for emergency purposes. Bottled water's an option. The water in your water heater could be another option that you could use in an emergency. Make sure you have 1 gallon of water per person per day and extra for pets. And then have a way to boil water. So me personally, I have a camp stove with some propane. I could use that to boil water. I remember growing up in Santa Clarita Valley and experiencing the Northridge earthquake, and our saving grace was a propane gas barbecue, because as everything was defrosting in the freezer, we were putting it on the grill. We also had a way to boil water. If you can't boil water, you can also disinfect water. I've got a flyer back there. Feel free to take it. But you can disinfect water with regular household bleach, unscented. The ratio is about 8 drops of bleach for each gallon of water. You want to stir, let it stand for 30 minutes before using. So, at CVWD, we'll be using all available resources at our disposal to respond to a large disaster, but we can't do it alone. We need our customers' assistance to ensure that while we're working 24/7 out there to restore service as quickly as possible, we want to know that our customers have invested in their own personal preparedness so we can get through this event together. So really appreciate the invite, and we'll be here for questions.
Okay, that was great. Thank you. Okay, so now we have Shauna Elliman, and she is from Eisenhower Health.
Good evening, everybody. I also brought somebody. I have Scott McCabe here. He is our Director of Facilities Management. So if you have any specific facility questions, he can help answer during our Q&A. All right, let's see. Okay. So I am currently the Senior Director of Nursing Operations, and I coordinate emergency management. And interestingly, we actually hired a new Director of Emergency Management who started today. So, so I'm kind of been interim. So I wanted to start with just our organizational preparedness plan and some of our priorities if we had an earthquake. So hospitals have an additional incident command system. It's called HICS. It coordinates or aligns with the national system, but it is specific for hospitals. We have specific accreditation requirements from the Joint Commission. We also have requirements from CMS, which is the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare. And we also have state requirements. So the hospitals are very heavily regulated. And we have a lot of requirements that we have to meet. Through the HICS program, we have several different individualized plans for different types of disasters. So we have actually a plan all laid out for us for earthquake. Other types of plans would be evacuation, cyber attack, just different types of plans are all laid out for us, which is really nice. It helps us get on the right track. We do staff training and drills routinely. Any new employee at Eisenhower goes through emergency management training, and then they do annual training thereafter. And then we do at least quarterly drills. We're required to only do 2 drills a year, but we do more than that, especially in our outpatient clinics. We have a notification system called Live Process that we can send a mass notification to employees at Eisenhower and our physicians. That will send them notice via text, email, or their phone, which is really nice, and we can make individual groups in that system and send out what's needed. And then we have a lot of resources available. We get several things from the county partners. They provide needed resources. We also just have medical supplies. We have food and water stores for patients and for employees. And then we also store some fuel for our needed equipment. During an earthquake, our priorities and objectives are going to be patient care and management. The safety of our patients, our staff, family, and visitors are going to be paramount. And then we're really going to focus on continuing our operational status, or if needed, safe evacuation from certain areas. And then also we'll really be providing any community support we can. Okay, so during the first 72 hours, we are going to activate our Incident Command Center and partner with our community partners. So the county, the fire, the police department, we are going to be reaching out for resources from those entities. We'll activate the earthquake plan and then any other applicable plans that we need to. We really anticipate an influx of patients during an earthquake, and so we will most likely also activate our surge plan. We'll be notifying our staff and trying to mobilize the physicians and nurses to come in and assist us. We'll be doing a facilities evaluation and looking at our infrastructure and assessing our damage. And then also looking at our communication methods. And we too have satellite phone, we have walkie-talkies that we can use, and different methods of communication. We would evacuate as needed, and dependent on the area, we could expand to other areas of the hospital or the clinics as needed to provide patient care. The picture up there is a surge tent. That's not our actual surge tent, but the county has provided us with a big tent that we can set up with cots and expand our emergency department or patient care areas as needed. We would also repurpose different areas for patient care. During an earthquake, we really wouldn't be doing elective surgery after an earthquake or having office visits, right? So we can take those areas and repurpose those for acute patient care. And likewise, we can take those, ask those staff members to come in and help us when we have a surge of patients. So we are going to evaluate any safe discharges. So if patients are close to being discharged, maybe we can discharge them if they have a safe place to go. And then we'll also be looking at downgrades from the ICU to try to make acute care beds available. We can expand our ICU into different locations in the hospital. We'll also be providing employee assistance. An example is during the recent tropical storm we had. We had employees that couldn't get home or were concerned they couldn't come back the next day to work. And so we did provide sleeping arrangements for many employees and physicians during that time. We also provided childcare for staff the following Monday because there were no childcare centers available. So we were able to do that. But it's essential we have our employees, so we're going to be providing as much assistance as we can. And then we're going to be coordinating with all of our county partners, EMS, and other healthcare facilities. We may need to take patients from other facilities, and likewise, they may need to take patients from us, depending on our damage or our needs. So we have to be prepared for any of those things. And like I said, we really anticipate we're going to get a surge of patients during that time from injuries. So we're going to just continually assess our status and really try to provide good patient care during that time. Okay. And then I put one slide together for public preparedness, or what you can do. So, and I think everybody's kind of already talked about, have a plan. It's really important to have a plan and know what you'll do if you have an earthquake. Having your emergency kits and your supplies ready, food and water storage is important. Basic first aid supplies is important. We are going to be taking care of the more critical patients, so the hospital won't be available for minor injuries at that time. And if you do come, you may wait for long periods of time during that time. So have some basic first aid supplies and have a plan. You also want to make sure to identify safe spaces at home, fix any earthquake hazards. So if you can, mount your bookcases to the wall, or things like that, to make sure that you don't have things falling as much when you have an earthquake. And then just how to protect yourself during an earthquake. You want to drop, cover, and hold on, and protect your head. Really, Eisenhower's committed to providing patient care during this time and keeping operations open. And we really hope that you all are prepared and have a plan. And that's all I have. So look forward to questions. Thank you.
Well, that's very good information. And just to remind you that there's going to be people that are going to be having medical reactions to what's going on. So maybe a bookcase didn't fall on them, but they're having a heart attack because of the stress, right? So the best way we can do is to prepare ourselves so that we don't have to be one of those people having a heart attack when someone actually has a bookcase fall on top of them and needs to get to the hospital. So preparedness is super important. So we have our last speaker, is that right? No, two more. Sorry. How could I forget you? Okay, Joshua Hokesvig is here, and he is from the Riverside County Emergency Management Department.
Hello, thank you for having me. My name is Josh Holkesvig. I'm with the County of Riverside Emergency Management Department. I am a Senior Emergency Services Coordinator for the eastern part of the county. I serve the Supervisor District 4, which is from Whitewater to Blythe, and then San Bernardino County line to Imperial County line, and then there's a small section that goes over the top of Mount San Jacinto. So when I want to tell everybody that I have a workload, it is 2/3 of the size of the county too, so it's pretty large. For us, we have 2 emergency operations center within the county. One is located in Indio, and the other one is in Riverside City. And what those serve as is a location for us to coordinate all the information that is coming in during a major emergency or a disaster. And we coordinate with all of our partners, our cooperators, our first responders, our special districts, our utilities, and they continuously are giving us information so that we can make regional decisions. I definitely can agree with Chief Coates when he was talking about the 7.8 magnitude earthquake and a large-scale event. It would be definitely a regional event, and it wouldn't be something that would only impact small communities. So that being said, we would have a difficulty being able to try to get useful resources during that time frame. Now, with the Emergency Operations Center, we do work with our mutual aid partners, the state and the federal government, in addition to other operational areas close by, like San Bernardino County, Orange County, San Diego County, to be able to receive resources as needed. So after a large-scale event, we would definitely want to secure our safety with our families and be able to make sure that they are secure and that we would be able to respond into the field to be able to assist. Initially, our agency will be surveying for damages. We do have a damage inspection teams that go out and survey for damages, and that looks like infrastructure, roadways, power lines, water lines, all those same things that all of our cooperators and partners have already mentioned. But we also gather that information and how the county can add additional resources to be able to help them respond and recover after a large-scale event. Determining our infrastructure impacts, I think one of the biggest things that we saw or learned from Tropical Storm Hilary was the roadways. Most of the roadways are still undergoing recovery efforts, and it takes a long time to get there. But something that we can learn after that is how we can make them more resilient for the future so that there's less of an impact during a major event. When it comes to emergency management, there are 4 core sections of emergency management, the first being preparedness, and that's based on historic information, that how we can better prepare ourselves. When it comes to natural emergencies or disasters, we're never going to be able to stop them, but we can also increase our resiliency and reduce the impact of a major environmental disaster. Next is mitigation. Mitigation efforts look like bridges, flood control channels, seismic retrofitting. Those can also be done in your own home. How can you mitigate against major emergencies or disasters within your own home? And we also just heard about strapping our furniture to the wall, strapping our hot water heaters, making sure that our homes are less vulnerable to a major emergency disaster. And that looks like all hazards, whether it's fire, flood, earthquakes. We communicate with our hospitals to make sure that they have appropriate staffing and also availability for critical patients to be transported there. We support our first responders when it comes to needs. If they have any specific needs that they may not be able to handle within their own agency, we can go outside of the county and be able to bring additional resources. The next step in our core sections of emergency management is response. And then when it comes to emergency management, that's one of the smallest sections of emergency management. We leave that to the first responders. but what happens after they finish with their position and their role within an emergency comes the recovery process, and that comes to gathering as much information as we can during that time frame and being able to feed that information to the state and then up to the federal government. For all of you that were impacted from Tropical Storm Hillary, we all know that took us several months to be able to get that presidential declaration, and all the information that was gathered during that time frame is what helps us get to that point. We work with our utility companies, Edison, the gas company. Coachella Valley Water District is just one of several water agencies that we deal with, and we get information from them as well to be able to provide resources from the county. So all of this information is gathered and then fed into the Emergency Operations Center. The reason why we have 2 Emergency Operations Center in the county is because if something happens on the west end of the county, then we have the East End Operations Center that is available to be utilized. It's the same size, same capabilities, everything is the same. And that is a point where a lot of our first responders will also have roles within the Emergency Operations Center. We have utility liaisons. We have city liaisons that are also available to be able to give information so that we can start the recovery process and start moving forward. Coordinating those resources, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. From Eisenhower, she had mentioned that those resources were specific and priority based, and that's the same thing with the fire department. We go out and we start triaging what we need and what is the most impacted during that time frame, and then being able to feed those resources to those certain locations to be able to do the most good for the most amount of people. The next step is evaluating for evacuations, whether we're going to move people or are they going to shelter in place, and then where are we going to put those people. So we have designated locations throughout the county that are utilized for evacuation centers that have specific resources available to them with showers and access and functional needs that we can utilize for an evacuation center. But we have to be able to do damage assessments and surveys on those buildings before we can let anybody move into those. And how long is that going to be? What does that look like? We also look at staffing. How are we going to staff those facilities? Finally, we coordinate with the state and federal government extensively. We also bring in safety assessment teams, initial damage estimating teams, and gather as much information as they can, because we have to meet a certain threshold value-wise that will be provided to the federal government so that we will be able to get that federal funding. And that looks like infrastructure funding mostly that comes back, and we can use that money to be able to provide for updates to the roadways, the infrastructure that was damaged. Finally, how do we reduce the impact of a major disaster or a major earthquake or a major flood? It starts with personal preparedness, and the importance of personal preparedness is critical when it comes to the response from our first responders, our hospitals, and the amount of people that they can serve. When you can help yourself and possibly reduce your risk or your vulnerability during emergency or disaster. So what I like to talk about is 72 hours is great, but when you look at the bigger picture of things, we need to be more prepared than even 72 hours. What does that look like from a response side of things? We may not have the resources coming, especially if we're impacted by a regional event like a 7.8 earthquake. Our routes of transportation will be delayed. Our airports will be delayed. We won't be able to get the resources and supplies that we need to be able to sustain normalcy within the Coachella Valley. The Coachella Valley is a specific area that is definitely designated for a major disaster, and the more resilient we are, the better off we'll be in the end and returning back to normalcy in the recovery process. I like to reference the San Bernardino snowstorms, where they were cut off for 10 days, and they're right in the middle of the Inland Empire. So how do you not be able to be prepared and take care of yourself in that time frame? Well, they got snow that was never expected, right? Well, we live in an earthquake-prone area. It's going to happen. So how can we prepare ourselves? So I like to say, have a minimum of 10 days. That being said, thank you very much.
That's right. Well, that's great information. Just think about how stressed out all these entities that are here to help us are going to be. Coachella Valley, did you see that where they go from Whitewater to Indio? Remember the movie we saw? Right down that whole thing. They get the whole thing. Or if these servers were trying to help us. Imagine if all of us got hurt. And then maybe people out in the parking lot are getting hurt or seeing us getting hurt. So it's really important that you be ready. Like if you have an early morning flight, you want to be packed ahead of time? Same thing. But worse, right? Okay, so we have one more person here. We have Coachella Valley Disaster Preparedness Network. This is, bless you. This is Carla Sullivan-Dilly.
Good evening. Are you still awake? Good. Thank you. Do you like my purse? Yes. Do you know where I got this purse? From Coachella Valley Disaster Preparedness Network. Thanks to the city of Rancho Mirage for funding us $2,500 for one grant and an additional grant so that they could be provided for all of you tonight. Do I know anybody here? Can you raise your hand if I know anybody out there? Anybody know anybody from CVDPN? Are y'all getting paid to be here tonight? I don't think so. We're all volunteers, so I appreciate that very much. All of you, you don't need to look at them right now, but in your red bag, you had several handouts. One is our trifold. I'm going to do a 30-minute presentation in less than 10 minutes for you. So I am going to go quickly, but know that the information is still there for you. Okay, so we're going to start. Will you be ready? This program tonight is about each and every one of you. I'm talking to you personally about what you need to do. CVDPN is 100% volunteer, nonprofit. We've been around for about 6.5 years. We train, we educate, and we network. The 9 cities, 8 unincorporated areas, and the tribes to teach you how to be prepared. We're not first responders as a nonprofit, but by helping you get prepared, we are supporting our first responders, and they are going to need all of our help. Number 1 hazards in Coachella Valley. Isn't it exciting to see you at the top of the list? 99.8, earthquake, flooding, heat wave, landslides, drought, lightning. Oh boy, don't you want to just come live in the Coachella Valley? Anyway, I did a program a few years ago, Why We Love Coachella Valley, even with all of its faults. Okay, so red is part of our logoed color and branding, but here you see pink, hot pink. You see the Salton Sea, and then you see that whole band of pink. Yes, did you realize that you purchased a home on the largest earthquake fault in the entire world? It's over 800 miles long and 10 miles deep. Woohoo! Good for you. So what are you going to do about that besides enjoy our beautiful Coachella Valley? We don't make up any of this information. We get our information from the experts, whether from the county, from the city, from the state, our local jurisdictions. One of our really good, and I'm excited to say, community partners will be doing something in about a month from now. They are the ones, Earthquake Country Alliance, that created the Great California Shakeout 15 years ago. We celebrate that every October, 3rd Thursday of the month, whatever the date is the time that we celebrate. They created Drop, Cover, and Hold On. They expanded it with showing you what you would do if you happen to be using a cane or yourself uses a walker or a wheelchair. You need to lock. And why do you do that? because you're not going to be able to outrun the ground when it starts moving. You're going to want to drop, cover, and hold on to something because it's going to continue to move. You do not run to doorways anymore. And if you ever hear of that nasty thing called the triangle of life, we don't listen to that. Drop, cover, hold on. What are the roads going to look like? Not real good. So the chances of us getting out of Coachella Valley to the east or to the west with 19 overpasses down across the 10 freeway, it's probably not going to happen. So we use the word shelter in place a lot. We've talked about possibly no running water, no waste disposal. We need to have an alternate shelter, possibly no power, no air conditioning, no heat, no electricity to pump the gas in the gas tank for your car at the gas station. So that's why we say always have at least half a tank of gas. And you're not going to be able to play the slot machines. Oh, wait, that's an ATM. You're not going to be able to get cash because there won't be electricity, quite possibly. So we've talked about our EMTs, our hospitals, first responders, police, fire departments, paramedics. We're used to a very spoiled world. We dial 911 and help comes. And sadly, they don't like to have to admit to it. They're not going to be able to come. 911's not going to be coming. Does anybody realize that? Yeah. They're going to be doing those windshield surveys and everything. That's why it is so important for each and every one of you to be prepared in your home, your family, and with your neighbors. So we talk about 3 places to be prepared: in your home, in your car, and a place of business, or if you're a student. So 3 places, you need to have a ready-to-go bag. That's what those red bags are. They don't go in the trunk of your car and put groceries in them. You take them home and you start to prepare. You need food, water for you and your pets, and we talk about a minimum of 2 weeks. So we'll get to more of that. Making an evacuation plan. Do you know how to get out of your house if it's pitch black? Have you thought about that? Or what happens if you're blocked at one end from the other? These are the times where you think about that now. Having your important documents, not just in one place, but stored in a couple of places in the event that you have to evacuate and you aren't able to take them with you. Maybe you're not home. And a personal contact list. How many of you have all of your friends and your family members' phone numbers memorized? You don't. What happens if your phone runs out of juice or you don't have cell service? But somebody can get information out. You're going to want to have a hard copy of those numbers written down. Auto survival, again, this is in your trifold. I'm not going to go through everything, but that may be your shelter. That may be where you're going to live for 72 hours. You may have just been at the movies, and you got out of the movie theater, and you're going to be in your car. Our ready-to-go bags, again, there's a more extensive list in our trifold, but then there's a double-sided English-Spanish list of what you should have in that immediate ready-to-go bag that goes under your bed. Any of you on life-saving medications? That should be something you should never leave home without. Sheltering, possibly in your car. Food, glorious food. Anyone hungry right now? I am. You need to have your own food supply. And if you're going to have canned foods, which hopefully many of you will, make sure you have a handheld can opener. Water. The biggest question is, how much water should I have? How much water can you handle? You can't have too much water. And I would suggest the blue can water for your cars, 50-year shelf life, so that you always have water. You can't live without water after a few days. You need water and you're worth it. Money. I might share some water, maybe some food with you, but I'm probably not going to share my money. So you need to make sure that you have money stashed, small bills, in your home, possibly in your vehicle, and a place of business. Because again, the banks are probably not going to be open right away. And should you be able to get into some sort of a store to purchase something, you really don't want to buy that one bag of chips for $20 if that's all you have with you. Mitigation, that's a big fancy word for get your space safe now. TVs that have toppled over, all kinds of other things toppled. Now is the time that you look around your house and you make things safe. Securing heavy furniture, the large appliances, flexible piping, again, all in our trifold. And where do you buy this? It used to be kind of a mystery, but now you just go to that big Amazon in the sky and you order it, or you go to the big box stores or any of the hardware stores. They all have a section for emergency preparedness equipment. Okay, my favorite. Any of you have pets? Raise your hand. Okay, I've got a border collie, Bodie. He's a foodie. He's also, I love him very much. Now, for those of you that have pets, do you realize that your pet counts on you for everything? You are their everything. You are their food, their water, their medication, their love. They're being checked on. So you need to make sure that you have a plan for your pets. All kinds of other things you can do. CVDPN, we offer hands-on CPR, first aid, stop the bleed. The cities, we are always promoting their CERT classes. That's one of the best things that you can do. Don't be afraid to learn how to take some of these classes and learn how to use some of the equipment that's available. CVDPN is here for all of you. When I said how many people do I know, there's many communities here besides Rancho Mirage tonight. They've reached out to CVDPN. They come to our trainings. We have a building in the middle of Palm Desert called the RAP Foundation, Regional Access Project. Did I get it right, Mike? I did? Okay, thank you. It houses all nonprofits. A little itty-bitty nonprofit like us would not be able to provide training if we didn't have a place to hold the training. So that's where we do it. Check us out. We depend solely on donations and grants. Thank you again, City of Rancho Mirage. Volunteers. We need more volunteers. Last year alone, we had almost 6,200 hours of volunteers from our small board, about 30 volunteers. So, and we're also looking for more bilingual. That's it. Did I do it in under 10 minutes? Right there. Okay.
So it's duck, cover, and hold, not duck, cover, and run, right? Drop. And that's good to have that. Do like old school. Remember how we used to have everybody's phone number on a piece of paper? Yeah, when it wasn't in your phone and you had to actually think about what you were doing. Okay, I digress. All right, so they asked me to make we have a little bit of time for questions and answers, but just a reminder about this cool movie. It's short, it's free, and it will be in air conditioning. It might be kind of warm around the end of March, so maybe that'll be good. But if you can share this information with your neighbors and friends. So, and there's more flyers out there. And don't forget your swag bag. Anybody got any questions? Okay, what's your question?
I have two questions. One, on the water, you suggested it has a 50-year shelf life, because I've discovered that you can't keep any of your bottled water in a hot place because it leaks toxins into your water. So when we have bottled water keeping in your house, so is the blue water not going to get affected if we keep it out in the heat?
Let me repeat her question. Is the mic on? Can you turn the mics on at the people? She's asking that blue water container, because you can't keep water in your car while it's hot. So she's asking you, is that protected against heat? And probably good to know where we can get that.
Okay, can you hear me?
Up to 120 degrees? Sometimes you can. Oh, a can go up to 120. Sounds delicious, doesn't it?
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
You can. Okay. Yes, they look like little soda cans, and it's called Blue Can Water. You buy it by the case, and you can buy it on Amazon, or you can buy it direct from the distributor, like they do at Sun City, and they buy a flat of it. It's more economical that way. But that water, I can keep that in my car, and I don't have to worry about rotating it all the time. I do it anyway because I'm anal, but it's not plastic, so you can keep that. Okay, I wouldn't suggest it for your total water supply, but for in the car when you live in the desert, absolutely.
Right.
Second question, real quick.
Yeah.
For those of us that are CERT trained and we have a major disaster, who would be the entity that would be reaching out to us for assistance? Because after doing the CERT training, I was told that the city might call on us in the case of a major disaster. But it'd be nice to know what entity would be contacting us, only because if I get a call from the water district, I may not answer it, but if I get a call from CAL FIRE, I might. So that's
Yeah. Can you hear the question? She's asking if you're certified, if you've got cert training, who's going to call you to ask you to do things, or how will that communication go? Who would answer that question? Okay.
I can answer that. So depending on where you live, you may have an established emergency response team. And realistically, in the county, we serve as what they call a catch and release training option. So we train people in CERT so that they can go back to their communities and be able to provide that service for their neighbors and your friends and your family. Now, actually being requested to respond is probably very small, depending on unless your community or your city jurisdiction provides an established CERT program where it is self-sustaining and it's single-handedly overseen by the city. So that would be a question to go back after this to the city.
Okay. Any other questions? I'll go back to the back with a red hat.
A lot of the communities live behind gated gates. Is there any kind of system that alerts the guards to open the gates?
Is there a system that alerts the guards to open the gates?
So some of
Okay,
those.
okay, answer the question.
So some of those, I can't speak for all the gates, but a lot of them have backup batteries. So when the power goes out, the gate is still available to be opened, whether it opens automatically or it stays open, or whether it's still activated through the keypad or through remotes.
So do we contact the guard company or to make sure that they have the batteries?
He's asking you to contact the guard.
I would check with your local HOA, or if you're in a gated community, I would check with the guard shack or the main security company to ensure that that's established. We do have keys in all fire equipment here that have access through all gated communities. So we don't need a code. We don't need an extra remote. Don't give that to the fire department. We'll lose it. So we have a key that's assigned to each fire engine or ambulance, and we can gain access into that community.
And the HOAs do a lot of, they have an emergency preparedness thing that they do every month, too, with the emergency preparedness people here in Rancho Mirage. And they have special radio-controlled things for that, too. So there's things maybe you don't know. I only know because my husband did it. So did you have a question over here?
I was just going to say, if the power is completely dead to those gates, default position is open.
I think so, yeah. They are manually open, too. What's the question in the... Okay, question in the back? I'll get you.
An earthquake is a universal experience. Everyone in the valley has seen it go. We've experienced an earthquake. 2 weeks ago today, there was a mass shooting at the Kansas City Chiefs Celebration Parade. There were 46 days into the new year, and there had been 49 mass shootings in the lower 48 United States. I'm using the FBI's definition of a mass shooting. If we have a mass shooting at a soft target, the Paraba tennis tournament, Coachella, Stagecoach, music festivals, I have a feeling that all first responders
you all can hear the question, right? It's kind of a little bit outside our purview, what we're talking about here, but that would be a question you could ask the emergency preparedness people about here in Rancho Mirage. But do you guys have any suggestions? I mean, I don't think every single person will be there, but yeah, that might be kind of a big like God question or something maybe. Do you have any idea?
We're going to be maxed out, and communication is going to be a priority. And I talked about that in my presentation, is be prepared for not having communication up to 72 hours. Oklahoma, just as I know, had an AT&T outage lasted up to hours. So we're going to have to be resourceful as a community. Community emergency response teams are beneficial within our community, and they provide the good support for our community to be stronger.
Okay, what can I hear? 7:30? Oh, we have can I do 2 more questions? Okay, we'll do 2 questions.
I just want to say thank you for all your
Yes, let's give them applause, because I know you guys are going to peel out of here. Yeah.
have some questions to do with a lot of the conversation. Some people spoke about assuming you're at home, and now at the end somebody mentioned about you could be in your car, you could be somewhere else. So I know I lost my home in a big fire, and people always ask me, "What did you take? What did you take?" Well, if you're not there, you can't take anything. And so therefore, also the roads. I was in Mexico during a big earthquake, and the roads were all cut over.
What's the question, Nohan?
So what do you do if you have no transportation, you have no phones? That's the other thing, is a cell phone. And is a land phone better than a cell phone at the time of emergency?
Can you hear the question okay? Okay, she's asking, what do you do if you don't have any cell phone? What was the other?
The roads will be cut.
The roads are all messed up.
And is a land phone better at that time?
Is a landline better for your house? Okay. Questions? Probably.
So I'm going to, you mentioned documents. So one of the things that you might consider is if you have access to a scanner, scanning in your important documents, and then choosing somebody that you really like and trust who does not live in California, and put it on a flash drive, ask them if they have a safe, send it to them so that they may be able to access some of those important documents. And I say that for the important document piece. And then if you're in your car and you're someplace, hopefully you have your emergency kit, right? But also, you might be best, if you don't know what's going on around you, you might be best to stay put where you are, because that might be the safest place for you. Especially get to an area where there are other people who you think that you can trust. Maybe go to a church parking lot or something, stay there, so that you don't end up being in a worse position. Being, I didn't say this in my presentation, but it was on the slide. Disasters bring out the best in people, but disasters also bring out the worst in people, right? So making sure that you're in a place that you can control and you can have a safe. Right, if you can drive, but you may not be able to go but 1 or 2 blocks, but hopefully there's some place safe that you could get your car to within a couple of blocks. Anybody else?
You know what? I got the hook. I'm not allowed to do it anymore. But but they'll be ready to answer questions maybe out in the hallway or something. I think we have a severe cutoff from the library is why. And so we're supposed to be out here by 11 or 7:30. But thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it. I know all of them do. And we appreciate you guys too. So thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank